right, everybody. What's going on? This is episode 1 of the Drew Stevens show. And let me tell you, it actually feels really good to get that intro out of the way because I've been sitting here for, I'd probably say a couple minutes trying to figure out how, what was the best way to kind of do this intro. And every time I said the intro, I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. So finally got that out of the way, kind of start to start this podcast and go ahead and get the ball rolling and get everything rolling. So this is a new podcast that I kind of wanted to do for a couple reasons. Number one, in today's world, everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants a platform in order to convey their opinion. And, nowadays we have such things, social media, Instagram, but, a big one, a big platform that people love to voice their opinions on is something like Twitter. So I do have a Twitter. I get on it probably every single day, multiple times a day. I go on there, I talk about stuff. But obviously, as we all know that, when you're on Twitter, number one, especially in today's day and age, you're not allowed to say whatever you want to say. You're not allowed to have an opinion, especially if if that opinion goes against, what someone else says or someone else thinks. But more importantly, Twitter only allows you a certain amount of characters in a tweet. So there are certain things that I would like to say that I just don't have the amount of characters in a particular tweet to kind of get across. So therefore, the only way I could get around that was to start a podcast, So look, this podcast isn't going to be anything, fancy or at least not at the beginning. As a matter of fact, if I'm lucky that I have one or two people who listen to this first episode, I would actually be extremely grateful just to have that. So if anyone does actually listen to this first episode, thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully, if I actually do this enough, which to be honest with you, this is not my first attempt at starting a podcast. This is actually my second, but the other one, I didn't have nearly as good of equipment, didn't nearly have as good of a grasp as to how to actually start a podcast and what to do and how to structure it. I'm better at it now that I'm a little bit older, but at that time, it was just really crazy. So I kind of wanted to make this first episode basically just to kind of there's not going to be a lot going on in this first one, but just to kind of lay the groundwork for how things are going to go. Because here's the thing, I intended for this podcast to be sort of like a podcast going over, the big things in today, really anything that I feel like talking about, but for the most part, things that interest me personally, like gaming and movies and television and occasionally tech, because, tech is, it's not a lot of tech stuff going on right now, or at least none that I'm aware of that I feel is worth mentioning. I could be wrong about that, but again, mostly because what I'm into, movies, TV, gaming, and that's something that at least in the last couple of years has definitely dominated pop culture. Now, I'll probably talk about other things because I'm also real big into sports. Love basketball, getting more into baseball now, even though baseball, let me tell you, man, learning the game of baseball and how it works is you definitely realize how technical baseball is, because it's not as simple. I've been trying to watch as many games as humanly possible, but something else that I've been trying to do to kind of learn the game is to play the actual video game, MLB, The Show 21. And let me tell you, baseball is a hard game to learn, especially when you've never really watched it before. I have a basic grasp on baseball, but not all that good. But anyway, that's besides the point. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do a podcast, just kind of talking about things in general, pop culture things, things that happen in movies and TV and whatnot, particularly because right now it seems like, the entertainment industry is in, I would consider, not necessarily a great place at the moment. Some people would, disagree with me because we're in an age now where everything is, and I hate using these words. I hate using these terms, but when I'm talking about this topic, there's no other terms that come to mind. So unfortunately, I have to say them again because they're the only terms that I feel like are applicable to Hollywood. But and those terms I'm talking about, woke Hollywood, Hollywood's focusing on diversity and inclusion. And I know everybody's probably tired of hearing those words linked to Hollywood: diversity, inclusion, woke, SJW. I've heard it all. And look, I'm not here to be what other people have referred to other channels or content creators or podcasters as hate channels, or hate podcasters or hate content creators, people who just kind of take today's big pop culture franchises, like Star Wars or DC Comics, Marvel, and just kind of constantly harp on the negative when it comes to these franchises. Even though I will admit, especially like Star Wars, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, that, Star Wars is not necessarily in a really good place right now. But you know what? I don't necessarily want to be one of those people that creates a platform specifically to hate on these franchises, because honestly, I feel like there are too many people doing that already. And quite frankly, that's just not the way I like to go about things. So I do want to touch, because there are certain things in pop culture today that actually excite me, that I'm actually interested in, that I'm actually like, wow, I can't wait for that to arrive. You know what I mean? So first of all, let me get this right off the bat. I do not like Marvel. Now, I have seen, how many have I seen? I haven't always been a Marvel hater. I am a huge DC Comics guy. I love DC. Batman's my favorite character. Flash is my second favorite character. I absolutely love DC. And let me tell you, I have not always been a Marvel hater, but that's just kind of the way it is, and kind of the person that I've crafted myself into over these last couple of years. Now, I have seen the first two phases of the MCU. And then when it comes to phase 3, I've seen the only phase 3 movies I've seen are that's my phone in the background. The only phase 3 movies I've seen are the two Avengers movies, which were Infinity War and Endgame. And I saw when Endgame had all the hype behind it and it was on its way to get released in theaters, I said, you know what, I don't want to be the only one that doesn't see Endgame. So I was like, you know what, I'll go see it. But I had no context behind Endgame and what had happened in the previous Avengers movie. So at that time, the Avengers movies were still, there was no Disney Plus at the time. So the Avengers movies were still on, I believe, Netflix. So I went and watched Avengers Infinity War on Netflix before I watched Endgame, so I could at least have even the smallest bit of context as to what was happening in Avengers Infinity War. And it actually did help. I did enjoy Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Endgame very much, but not enough for me to actually like watch Marvel seriously. So I'll probably barely talk about Marvel, because I know right now the big thing is the Loki TV series, and this is coming off the heels of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision, and it just seems like the MCU has had all these movies, all these TV projects, just bam, 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 one after the other, and then by the time Loki ends its run, You're gonna have Black Widow. You're gonna have Shang-Chi, the Spider-Man No Way Home. If there's I think there's a fourth movie coming out. I'm blanking on it, but you get the picture. Um, I pay attention from an outside perspective on what goes on with Marvel, but it's definitely not really my cup of tea because I'm a big DC fan. Absolutely excited for the upcoming Flash movie next year. The four movies that DC does have coming out next year. The Flash movie, super excited about that. The Black Adam movie with The Rock, super excited about that. Robert Pattinson's Batman. Look, the first trailer that they announced that they released for that movie at DC Fandom last year. Look, I was actually excited for that movie before the trailer. I will admit the trailer actually slightly diminished my excitement because it wasn't necessarily the best. It was a great trailer, but I still don't know if I'm completely sold on Robert Pattinson as Batman, but we'll see. You know what I mean? I'm willing to give actors a chance to portray these heroes. You know what I mean? I want to at least wait until I actually get to see him before making my judgment as to whether or not I thought he was a good pick for Batman or not. What else is coming out next year? Flash, Black Adam, Batman, Aquaman 2. I the first Aquaman was really good. The year that Aquaman came, because I remember the year that Aquaman came out was also the year. It was a redemption year in my eyes for Aquaman because before then I had little to no respect for Aquaman, for the character of Aquaman. He was always to me just like kind of like a guy, a forgettable character, and there were really two movies that really changed my tune on Aquaman. One of them was the Jason Momoa Aquaman movie. The other one was actually I don't know if anyone's ever seen the Justice League animated movie, Justice League Throne of Atlantis, which is part of the DC AMU, the DC animated movie universe. Those two movies really did help my overall perspective on Aquaman. I definitely gained a little bit more respect for him. Not only him, but his character, the supporting characters, people like Mira, Orm, King Atlan, Queen Atlanta, so that definitely helps. So am I excited for the sequel? I mean, it is what it is. We're going to get one. It's cool. It's always great when DC movies come out. So I'm definitely excited there. And just things like that, you know what I mean? Movies and TV and whatnot, and video games. I know right now it's Ratchet and Clank just came out for the PlayStation 5. I do own a PlayStation 5. I just got one. I had to go through hell to get one. It took me 6 months after release before finally getting one. All my coworkers, well, not all of my coworkers, but a lot of my coworkers got PS5s before me. I had to go through a lot of mocking for still being on PS4 up until recently when I finally was able to get a PlayStation 5. And like I said, I've been playing MLB on it. I've been playing Returnal, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, even though I swore that I was not going to buy Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. And this is coming from a guy who is a yearly Call of Duty buyer, regardless of the reception or how other people feel about Call of Duty, whether or not it's the worst Call of Duty in the franchise, which that seems to be the case every year. Every single Call of Duty that comes out every year seems to be the worst. When Black Ops Cold War came out, it's the worst Call of Duty ever. Modern Warfare came out. Okay, Modern Warfare was actually a really good Call of Duty. It was surprisingly good. I held out on getting Modern Warfare for a while, but when I finally got it, I actually had fun with it. Actually, the same thing happened with Call of Duty Cold War, even though I just said that I swore that I wasn't going to get it. I really was going to get it, but for whatever reason, I was waiting until I got one of the next-gen gaming systems before I bought Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So one of the first things I did when I got my PS5 was I bought Black Ops Cold War, and let me tell you, I'm actually having really a lot of fun with it. I played through the campaign, which I actually need to go back and play through the alternate ending of the campaign. I already know what happens in the alternate ending, but I do want to play it for myself. So, excuse me. I do want to play it for myself. So, the multiplayer is actually really, really good. I really do like it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of rehashing in the multiplayer for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I mean, I like that. I mean, they have the Nuketown 24/7 playlist. I love Nuketown, even no matter how many times they bring back Nuketown. What is this? Like, let's see, there was the original Nuketown, there was the Black Ops 2 Nuketown, there was the Black Ops 3 Nuketown, there was Black Ops 4 Nuketown, and then this is like the fifth time they've brought back Nuketown. So, but I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to get tired of Nuketown. And then right now, I believe, I know they're doing the Hijacked 24/7, the yacht map from Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which was actually also one of my favorite maps from Call of Duty Black Ops 2. But for whatever reason, playing it on Black Ops Cold War, I actually hate it. I don't know why. I don't know why. I loved it on Black Ops 2, but for whatever reason, and it's the same map. It's not like, because even with the Nuketown maps, they kind of change it up a little bit, the aesthetic, to kind of match the setting of the whatever Call of Duty game that it released in. But this is literally just the same map, just updated. Yet I'm like, I don't remember this map being this insufferable, because I absolutely hate playing on it. And I absolutely loved playing on it on Black Ops 2. So I don't understand what the difference is. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I really did hate the map and I just, forgot about it, because, Black Ops 2 came out many years ago. Black Ops 2 came out at a time when the PS4 and Xbox One didn't even exist. We were still on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. So it came out a while ago. So that was then. But yeah, things are going, starting to get a little bit better with the games coming out and whatnot. Madden 22, that's about to come out. I know there's a new WWE 2K game. They skipped last year and they didn't have a new game. So now WWE is coming out with another game again. So that should seem pretty cool. I'm not a big Xbox guy. Look, that's just me. Even though I've said numerous times to coworkers and friends and family that I personally believe that the Xbox 360 is the greatest game console of all time. Now, I'm 24 years old, so I didn't necessarily grow up back in the days of the Atari, the Atari 2100 or any of those old Atari or ColecoVision days. I know that's one of the consoles from back in the day. Look, I didn't grow up in those days. When I first started gaming, the big console, when I was younger, was the PlayStation 1, the original PlayStation. And that was actually my first home console, the PlayStation 1. I had three games for it. I had Power Rangers Time Force. I had Frogger, Pac-Man World, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater. The same Tony Hawk Pro Skater that they just remastered, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 that they just remastered for current consoles. So I had the original on there, and then I want to say my second game system, it wasn't really, it was a system, not necessarily a console, but it was the Game Boy. And I remember on there I had, what was that game called? I think it was a four-wheeler game. I believe it was called Quad Desert Fury, if I'm not mistaken. Quad Desert Fury, and oh my God, what was the other game? Oh, not Pac-Man World, Super Mario World, which I still have. I don't have the actual game that I had when I was growing up, but I do have a PSP Go that I have jailbroken, that I have a Nintendo emulator on, that I do have Super Mario World downloaded. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. That I do have Super Mario World downloaded on. And let me tell you, it's pretty weird when you have a Sony console or a Sony portable console in your hand, and I boot up Super Mario World and there's a big Nintendo sign on the screen. It's like, wait a minute, there's like a Sony sign right below on the screen. So that's kind of weird. But Yeah, so that's where I started. So considering all the consoles, look, growing up, I had a couple consoles growing up, but not necessarily a lot of consoles growing up. Growing up, let's see, I had the PlayStation 1 and the Game Boy. I did have a PlayStation 2. Um, I did not, I own one now, an original Xbox. I own one now, but I did not own one when they were actually like the new system. But I do own one now. Sorry, I just took a sip of water. Um, and then the next generation, the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, I did not own a PlayStation 3. Well, no, that's a lie. I owned a PlayStation 3, but that was like the tail end of the generation because for the majority of that time period, I owned an Xbox 360 and man, let me tell you, and the Xbox 3. Now, here's the thing, the Xbox 360 that I had, which was the OG white red ring of death Xbox 360, the one with the removable hard drive, that same Xbox 360 that I got for my 14th birthday, I still have that Xbox and it still works to this day. I had so many games for it. I played Halo 3 on there, and I still have all the games too. I'm looking at them right now. I have, that was like when playing Call of Duty was like at its peak. Like, because right now I'm looking at the games. I have Call of Duty 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, Ghost, Advanced Warfare. All of those for Xbox 360. But I mean, not just that, like, you know, the Batman Arkham games, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, um, Lost Planet 2, The Force Unleashed 2. Obviously, we can't forget about all of the Halo games, Halo 3 ODST, Halo 4, my first two games on that 360 were actually Burnout Paradise and it was a game that Rockstar Games had made. It was a Rockstar table tennis, which was basically just like Rockstar made like a ping pong game, which I didn't ask for the game. My parents just kind of bought it for me. Yeah, I didn't ask for it, but it was actually a really fun game. You know what's funny? Now that I actually say that, I actually want to track that game down and potentially get it again because I'm a big game collector. I don't want to say vintage game collector because I only collect games from the era in which I actually grew up gaming. So again, nothing really before PlayStation 1. I don't really necessarily refer to that as vintage. Maybe retro. I guess systems like the PlayStation 1 and 2 and original Xbox, which I do own an original Xbox as well as a GameCube. I guess that you can consider those retro. I guess they're old enough to be considered retro. Maybe not vintage, but maybe just retro. I don't know if there's a difference between vintage and retro. But most people should understand what I'm trying to say. But anyway, um, but yeah, that's kind of how things go over here. So, I know I kind of ranted on a little bit right there, but honestly, that's kind of not necessarily exactly how I want to do things, but that's just kind of how I wanted to set up this podcast and this new show of mine. Just kind of going over things in pop culture that happen, whether that be movies, music, or not music, movies, TV, video games, occasionally tech when the news actually comes up. Um, whenever news comes up in these areas, I definitely want to just kind of have a platform to give my opinion on these things. If I had have done this maybe a week ago, I'd have probably talked about, the recent set photos that leaked from The Flash, showing, Michael Keaton's Batman with his gray hair and Ezra Miller's Flash and, the big thing, Sasha Kaye in her, new Supergirl outfit, which I will say this, because I understand why people immediately went to hating on Sasha Kaye's outfit and her suit, and everyone was kind of just like nitpicking on how it looked and how comic accurate. I'm just gonna say I personally loved Sasha Kaye's Supergirl outfit. I thought it was cool. I thought they did a good job of paying homage to Henry Cavill's suit without just completely ripping off his suit and just basically taking Henry Cavill's suit and basically putting some boob cuts in it and giving it to Sasha Kai. I'm glad they didn't do that. So I'm glad they kind of paid homage to the same, chest emblem, the same chest emblem that Henry Cavill has, but also kind of making the suit her own. And I thought it looked great. I thought her hair looked great, the short hair and everything. I, with a lot of people, don't believe that she's going to be Kara Zor-El Superman, or Supergirl. So she'll probably be, some other Supergirl from an alternate timeline. So, but yeah, just stuff like that. Whenever news comes up, and I'm sure, there's a lot of other things DC related, and then just kind of other stuff, other movies. I know the Tomorrow War just came, or the Tomorrow War. That's a big movie that I'm interested in seeing. So just stuff like that, pop culture, whatever goes on in the world of pop culture that I feel like talking about because I have an opinion on it, is kind of what I want this to be. And, I want to do this, because I want to state my opinion without necessarily having to be PC, be politically correct, or feel like I need to watch what I say or make sure that what I say lines up with certain other people's opinions, because I've always been of the mindset that at the end of the day, the only person whose opinion that I actually care about is my own. You know what I mean? So, now, if you have an opinion that matches up with mine and that agrees with mine, that's awesome. But I'm not going to lose any sleep necessarily because someone disagrees with me and, someone doesn't agree with what I have to say, because at the end of the day, that opinion is irrelevant to me. But anyway, I feel like I've rambled on enough. We're at 27, approaching 28 minutes. So yeah, for this first episode, I really just wanted to kind of, lay the groundwork for how future podcasts are going to go. And I'm going to be putting these episodes. I kind of want to get this first one out just so I can kind of break that barrier and kind of get things rolling, just to kind of get things started. Eventually, I do want to, and I will eventually put these podcast episodes up on YouTube. The audio from these podcasts up on YouTube. Definitely gonna probably work on getting a camera so that I can actually have put a face to the podcast and everything, and kind of make it up the production quality of the podcast and everything. But you know what I mean? We all have to start somewhere. We all have to start from the bottom and work our way up. And you know what? This is something that I've wanted to do for a while. And I've kind of procrastinated and put it off for a while. And I'm finally ready to take it on and to try and pursue this. And you know what? I'm going to take it an episode at a time. Right now, we're doing the initial episode. So episode 1. And, the goal, let's try and get to episode 2. And then maybe after episode 2, I know I'm about to contradict myself by saying go one episode at a time, episode 2, and then maybe episode 2, we can maybe work up to episode 5, and then episode 10, then maybe episode 15, then never know, maybe we may get up there to episode 50, and then episode 100, and you never know, there may be 1,000 episodes, okay, maybe not 1,000 episodes of the show, but, if it got to that point, then that would be incredibly awesome. So, again, it's probably highly likely there may be one or two people, probably people who I specifically tag on Twitter that I just started a podcast and I force them like, hey, go listen to this. So I already have a couple people in mind. I'll probably send this to Caleb. So if you listen to this whole podcast, listen to the end, because I'm shouting you out right now, because he's probably going to be the first person that I send this podcast to, because he's a really close friend of mine. And I really care about his opinion. I care about his input. And I know that, because we've done these kind of things before in the past, and he's always helped me and whatnot. So and I've helped him. So hopefully he can help me a little bit by maybe we can get this podcast off the ground. But he's definitely going to be the first one I tell. So if you, Caleb, if you listen, if you get all the way to this end part, 30 minutes in, then you're the real MVP. Appreciate you. So yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode. So I just wanted to do this introductory episode. I'm going to try to get this up on all of the major podcasting websites. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all that stuff. Still working on that. But if we do, then you know what? I'll see all of you on those sites. Hopefully you all download it. Make sure you like the podcast. And I will see you all in the next episode. Peace out.